they just want to go in a dark room, start making some stuff happen. But I have learned that whenever you do this, and there is not 100% participation, dedicated focus from the business, that you're not going to be highly successful. So it's a paradigm shift, and it's a new way of how we think about this. And the reason why is, and I'll talk about this later on, is that how you develop your business processes is really how you get success out of this system, right? So no need to go showing how smart we are as IT and how we can stand up, great systems. You got to bring the business along. It's a new way of working and a new way of thinking. The other thing when it comes to what to consider is money. Quite natural. They're expensive, right? It's huge. All transformation initiatives require an upfront capital investment. We know that. Ongoing maintenance, right? Dedicated staffs to maintain it. And potentially some additional operating expenses. And so you got to know what these costs are up front. And a lot of times we don't do all of our homework, right? Again, we get excited about this and we leave some things unsaid, untalked about, right? And these providers, they sell you on the fact that everything is centrally owned and managed, and so it's going to be a cost savings. And I do believe that it is, but there are a whole lot of other costs that are associated with it, right? You got to start thinking about, okay, while we're doing the project, maybe it's capital dollars, but once we're live, is the business prepared to have ongoing operating expenses associated with this? So the cost, the money part of it, absolutely make sure you focus on it. And what's happening is, cloud allows us to focus more on customers and the business, right? Other than our typical heavy lifting related to racking and stacking and the powering of servers. And so think about the costs that are associated with that. And then there's the model. There are all types of ways we can implement transformation or modernize or digitize, right? You got infrastructure as a service. You got PaaS out there. You got software as a service. And so depending on your organizational goals, you have to determine what model really works for you, right? So for example, if you wanted to go with infrastructure as a service, right? Maybe there's a high dependency, if you will, on IT resources, as opposed to if you went to SaaS, it frees up some IT resources and it gets a rapid deployment. So you got to think about the model that you actually want to use. No right or wrong, right? It's just a conversation of what really works for our organization. And, when I think about model, I think about not just, whether it's going to be a PaaS implementation or a SaaS implementation, which is really hot right now, but I start thinking about the operating model from the organization that you're in. Again, I've led an initiative where we started building because we thought we had requirements and we thought we knew exactly where they were going. And what ended up happening was we did a lift and shift. So we brought bad stuff into new technology and expected something different, right? To me, that's just complete. I won't say what I want to say, but to me, it's a no-brainer that garbage in, garbage out is exactly what you're going to get. So take some time to think about what the organization wants to be when they grow up and let that factor into the model that you're actually going to use. And then there is the actual move. How do you know when it's time to modernize your organization, right? And so, one of the things I think about is when you start talking about you got hardware that's at end of life, and you're trying to determine how we're going to support that, are we going to renew contracts? That certainly is a sign. Then I think about walking into, look at your physical server, and it's hot, and they're loud, and you can fry an egg on top of them, and I'm not exaggerating now, but y'all get the point, those y'all are doing the top servers cold. So when they start giving you problems, that's a clear sign that it's time to modernize, right? I think about compatibility issues that start to arise. So, listen, people know, companies know right now that if you want to remain in the game, you got to start doing it. You got to modernize. Like you can't be competitive and get to market quicker on some of the legacy systems that we grew up on, right? Some of the homegrown systems. And so when you start talking about compatibility issues because you're working with vendors and you got integrations and they've migrated already and you're still kind of lingering, it's time to move, right? And then increased system management time. When you're spending a ton of time on with your resources, doing applied patches, building, adding on, changing code, stuff isn't working anymore. That's a sign that it's probably time to digitize your organization. So when to move is essential. And sometimes we don't really sit down to do the business case of what we're really spending transferring their applications into the cloud, right? So you gotta be considering to the business in terms of having them tell you what makes sense to bring over when, right? So we want to do it at the end of the year, the end of our fiscal year. Well, maybe we got a lot going on then. You want to do it in January, well, maybe that's open enrollment. There's a whole lot going on, on the HR front. So when to migrate is just as important as all of the previous legwork that you've done to determine, yeah, I want to do it. You got all your ducks in a row, but when to do it is critical, right? You start talking about payroll. You can't cross over in a certain payroll period or something. So all those things need to go into consideration. And again, the business should be leading that, right? And then I think about maintenance as it relates to maintenance, right? Because when you start talking about maintaining your applications in the cloud, it's a different conversation. No longer, again, can I go to the DBAs and say, hey, we're going to determine when it's time for us to apply these patches. And oh, by the way, we're going to wait because we got a little something going on this weekend and we don't want to do it. Most of these providers are mandating that you update your systems, right? Think about Apple, right? You wake up in the morning, your bank or Apple has said, hey, there's a mandatory update that has to happen. You can't email Apple or your bank and say, hey, no, don't do it on the list phone. I think I want to wait 6 months. Absolutely not. And so you have to make sure that your organization is to automate this, right? I like to think about patching as when you think about healthy habits, right? Like eating and exercising. Those things are tedious, right? And we don't workout buffs that are on this call today. But to me, it ain't fun. And it ain't nothing that I just wake up in the morning and I'm excited about doing. But I think of IT maintenance tasks as a very similar appeal, right? But with automation. So if I had somebody that was automating, hey, Melissa, here's your food, now eat it. It's 9 o'clock. Hey, Melissa, go get on your treadmill. It's like noon. Hey, Melissa, go run 2 miles. Then maybe that will make it more palatable. So certainly when you're talking about maintenance for the cloud, you absolutely must consider automation. All right, so those are just the 6 things that when I think about migrating, these are the things that stand out, migrating into modernized technology, if you will. These are the 6 things that over the 20 years of my life have really kept me up at night, making sure that they are in place. Now, then there's some things in terms of what you don't want to avoid, right? There's some things you want to avoid, but then there's some things that you don't want to avoid. And I touched on this a little bit as it relates to business processes. Listen, you absolutely positively have to make sure you have some good business processes. In the absence of that, you're not bringing the business along, right? Just standing up a system, like I said, and saying, hey, we're going to throw this in all of our current business processes in, garbage in, garbage out. That's called a lift and shift, right? And I have some experience recently, not too long ago, where we did an effort like that. And you're paying for it after the fact, believe me. So spend the time that it takes. And this is always just so tedious, right? The business doesn't want to spend time with IT regurgitating what they do on a daily basis. But it behooves you as an organization to make sure that you have some solid business processes. Right, wrong, or indifferent, right? You have an opportunity to transform them when you get into this new technology, right? And be open to business process change. That goes back to my change management conversation, right? You've got to have a mindset to say, okay, I'm going to the cloud. The very fact that you signed up for cloud means that there's some level of standardization that you're signing up for, right? No more do I go to Billy and say, hey, go just code this and give me exactly what I want. There's standardization that's involved. And then your operating model is important, knowing what you want to be when you grow up. Organizational culture. Wow, this is big. And again, I just have to give kudos to my team because I know they're listening. They promised me that they would be. And I'm going to give them a quiz on it after today, although they live this every day. You have to have a culture that's ready for this. You've got to be ready for it because it's a big deal. It is transformation. It's not just taking what you have, putting it over there, but there is a whole level of change that's got to be done in the minds of the people in order to really say as an organization we are ready. And then be prepared to fail fast, right? I am of the opinion that if you don't like to fail, maybe you ain't ready to go. Maybe that's part of the mindset, right? Be able to fail fast, bounce back from it, regroup, be agile, be flexible, and
questions.
Yes.
From your talk, I know Cora mentioned this in the chat box earlier when you were talking about mindset. I think one key thing I know that organizations we work with struggle with is how to align stakeholders in your organization. Can you maybe expand upon any recommendations you have for aligning your management team or those key stakeholders in making the decision around
Absolutely. Absolutely. We call this, or I call this, the city council approach, right? On implementations where this has gone really well, we have done what's called the city council approach, where every key stakeholder that has skin in the game on this particular transformation, I have personally sat with them and asked them, what are the top 3 things that you are, your KPIs that you're concerned about, right? And I make sure that every time I stand before them or if we're doing this campaign, that I'm mentioning that, right? To get them on board. And I ask them to come to our meetings. I have them talk to the IT team. But if you don't stop, by, pay a visit, hear their voices, listen, we have had, and this is me trying to encourage executives to own this, right? I'm like, listen, if what we're after is to have what's called a golden record, I'll call it that. One of my CEOs previously said, we're working on this transformation because it's the golden record. I would ask him, anytime you get up before the organization, talk about the golden record so that the guy that's in the elevator that knows nothing about technology, at least he's heard the CEO say, we're working on the golden record. So I say, involve your executive leadership team really, really early on, understand what they want, and make it a part of your conversation. City council approach.
Awesome. No, that's great. And the last thing that I think is also important too, that I'd love your feedback on, is I've seen firsthand how you interact with your team when we were with you in Jacksonville and how you empower your team, inspire them, and make sure everyone's on board. What are some ways that you kind of build that culture for your team and ensure that everyone is on the same page and everyone on your team is aligned?
Sure. So the first thing I like to say is it relates to leadership anytime. My people, hopefully, can attest that they know that I appreciate them. Right, first and foremost, right? Anytime I meet with my team, the very first thing we talk about is, how are you doing? How is your family? I know their kid's name. I know their spouse's name. I call it out by, it starts with them. And so I am a people connector. And so it's easy for me with the type of personality that I have, right, to engage my people. It's not just about the work, but it's about the people, right? And I am a firm believer that my people want to do a good job for their leader. It's because I invest in them. And I am conversating with them, right? And they'll tell you, like, on our team, it's a safe zone. We were just laughing about it. Like, we can cut up and we can really act really silly, but when it's time to deliver, I have no problems with them because we are a team. We're a family. And so the family wants to do well for the family at large. And so I am promoting my people every chance I get. What I am smart enough to know is that it's not me that makes this stuff happen. It's the team. So I have a dream team, and I let them know every chance I get how appreciative I am. It works.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa, for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. What a great way to start this afternoon. Thanks, everyone, and thanks, everyone, so much for interacting in the chat box. We see you, so feel free if there's other questions or things you want to bring up, continue the conversation there. And now I'm excited to introduce our second speaker, Anthony Morgante. He's Partner Sales Lead at Amazon Web Services. He specifically focuses in on Microsoft workloads and cloud-native technologies. He holds over 20 years of exemplary leadership in business development and enterprise sales. And from me, this week's topic. So I'm really excited for you to get to know him. Ironically enough, he started his career on Wall Street at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And today he's going to be talking about the power of elasticity in the cloud and how to